Hi everybody, this is Lara at Elliott Wave Gold and Elliott Wave Stock Market with an extra video update for you this week. I'm going to video the process I'm going to go through to update my Bitcoin analysis, and while I do that I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for how I figured out a few ideas for using Motive Wave, because they've got a sale for 30% off for the next week. So if you want to pick up a Motive Wave license, now is a good time to do it. So here's my Bitcoin analysis, and I have to import the data because my data feed with bar chart doesn't cover cryptocurrencies. So the last candlestick is dated 12th of November. So I'm going to go over to Yahoo Finance and find the right data feed. I'm going to choose the right dates. So I'm going to go from the 12th of November to the current date, apply, download, okay, so that's in my downloads folder. I'm going to go back over to Motive Wave, File, Chart, Import Data, Add CSV file. Find it in downloads, there it is. It's a cryptocurrency. I'm going to uncheck all of these, click import, and there we are. When I first open my charts, Motive Wave doesn't always remember what scale I had it on. Here's one of the tips. I do my monthly analysis, my weekly analysis, and my daily analysis. This is all the same wave count, but 3 different time frames, and I do it in different tabs. And this is the reason why. First of all, let's change this to a semi-log scale, because Motive Wave has forgotten that's the scale I want. It's squishing it up to the left and pulling it up too high. Let's expand that out and pull the top down. Expand it out one more click. Okay, and pull the bottom up so I can see this is where the wave count begins, that's 0. Another thing Motive Wave doesn't do is every time I reopen it, all of these, it moves them, which is really annoying. So I end up spending a bit of time reformatting my charts every time. I mean, maybe I don't have to do it, but I'm fairly particular about how my charts look. I like them to look clean and organised. I think it helps with the thinking process. Well, it does for me anyway. So that chart's looking pretty good. This is the reason why I have this chart, my monthly time frame, different to my weekly. Here on the monthly, let's look at this primary label 1 and 2. On the monthly chart, it's sitting perfectly and it's adhering to that candlestick, but if we go down to weekly, it's not. And if I move it over, so now on the weekly it sits correctly, we go back to the monthly, it's not sitting right. So if you want your labels to sit on the correct candlestick for each time frame, you're going to need to want each time frame on a separate tab or a separate chart. So this is my monthly wave count. Since I last analysed Bitcoin, it's gone up some more. Let's go and look at the weekly. Okay, now again, let's put this, yeah, it's in a semi-log scale. Let's bring them, I'm just going to get rid of this insanely huge number. That's one calculation using a different technique. I've said it before, but calculating targets for Bitcoin, I mean, possibly don't even bother. It's just the most insanely leveraged market I have ever seen, and it will obliterate all targets. So I've tried a few different approaches for calculating targets, but I don't have confidence in them. I do have confidence in the technical analysis method to identify when a high is over. So I should hopefully, again, be able to identify the next major high in Bitcoin within a few days. Well, within a couple of weeks at the most. It should be within 1 week. Okay, so this is the analysis at the weekly chart level, and I'm noticing we've reacted down from resistance at this channel. This is a base channel drawn around primary 1 and 2, from the start of 1 to the end of 2 with a copy on 1. We've found some resistance here, and going back to the monthly chart, we've also found resistance at the prior all-time high, this high here, 19,870.62. This high here so far for this week, 19,390, so just a little bit below. So we've got possibly a double top. But I don't think that's the end of it. This wave count's extremely bullish. Okay, now we're going to go and look at the daily chart, and this is where I'm really going to be updating the analysis. And I think we're going to start from the low of primary 2, week beginning 8th of March this year, 4,106. Or are we not? No, that's going to be too far off to the left of the chart. So here it is, it's the same point, 4,106. I don't want my candlesticks to be that small, that's too squished up, so I think I'm going to focus on intermediate 3. Now in order to get your, this is another thing that doesn't do, changes the colour. In order to get your channel sitting right on the daily chart, I want it to be on an arithmetic scale. My weekly and monthly charts for Bitcoin are on a semi-log scale because this market has got such insane volatility, leverage and volatility. In order to get your channels sitting right, when you open the chart, you have to compress and then re-expand the chart. It allows Motive Wave to see the anchor points for the channel. Here's an anchor point here and here. It has to see those before it will make the channel sit correctly and then expand it back out. So I'm going to start this from the end of intermediate 1 and intermediate 2. I'm going to pull intermediate 3 up. I'm just going to move this over to the right here. I think I want to put this here. Oh no, we can't do that because that makes minuet 3 the shortest. Okay. We'll put that up there. Okay, now subminuet 5 has a nice 5-wave structure. Let's put some labels in there. It's a control clip, decompose. This is an impulse. That looks good. Okay. So I'm going to move my, okay. This is an invalidation point for intermediate 4. Although I don't expect it to get anywhere near that point. The 4th waves for Bitcoin aren't usually that deep. Let's add another invalidation point, a more short-term invalidation point. I've got this part of the wave count right so far. Here's the invalidation point. This is not particularly useful. I don't expect price to get down that low at all, but technically this is the invalidation point for minute 4. And this is 10,804.732. Okay, so that's how we could be labelling the middle of this 3rd wave. It could have passed. I have spent some time back with this here and trying to calculate a target for cycle wave 3. I've been looking at these ratios within cycle 1 between primary 1, primary 3 and primary 5. So I want to have a look at that with you. Primary 1 is 31.9 in length. Primary 3 is 1,239.93 in length. 1239.93 divided by 31.9. Primary 3 is 38.87 times. Let's just write this in. 38.87 times primary 1. Let's add some colour there so I know what degree of labelling I'm referring to when I make this notation, and put this here. So that's the length of 3 in relation to 1. What about 5 in relation to 3? 3 is 1239.93, 5. I'm reading the numbers off here, so I highlight the waves I'm looking at and then it just tells me exactly the length. Super easy. 19674.36. So 19674.36 divided by 1239.93 is 15.86 times the length of 3. And 15.87, we'll round it up to 2 figures. So 3 is a lot longer than 1. 5 isn't so long in relation to 3. But what's 5 in relation to 1? This is important information because when we look at cycle degree, we have the length of 1. We know 2 is over and 3 begins, so we know the starting point for 3 and the length of 1. So what could 5 be in relation to 1? So within cycle 1, 5 was 19,674.36 divided by the length of 1, 31.9. It was 616 times the length of 1. Let's double check that, 19,674.36. Yep. So 5 equals 616.75 times the length of 1. Considering the possible length of 3 and then 4 and 5 to try and figure out where this all might end, let's just get that 4 and 5 here, bring it back over and put it into this chart here. If we want to consider where could this bull market for Bitcoin end, or like how high could this go if you wanted to be really patient and wait for the end of 3, wait through 4 and wait for 5. Let's put an arrow showing that possible pathway for price in here. 3, 4 and 5. 5 could be 616 times the length of 1. So it could be 1 was 19,870.61 times 616.75. Well, I mean, that's ridiculous, isn't it? 12,255,198.72. I mean, it could be that long if the ratios or the relationships between cycle 1, 3 and 5 are the same as what we saw here between primary 1, 3 and 5. That's possible. And we don't know the starting point, although at this point it doesn't matter if it's 30,000 or 100,000 of 5. When you're looking at a total length of 5, it could be 12 million. I'm not going to put that in there. That's just it seems quite ridiculous. But then I remember back here when we were looking for the end of this, Bitcoin just blew through all of the targets I calculated, and it ended up being much, much higher and longer than anything I had calculated. So I'm trying to be really open here, really open and considering all possibilities and looking at different ways of trying to calculate targets here for Bitcoin, because my previous methods did not work. So I need to try something different. I don't want to keep trying to do the same thing and expecting a different result, because, well, that's not going to work. Okay, do I have an alternate wave count? Is it still valid? Well, technically, but let's see how likely it is. This alternate looks at the possibility that primary 2 is not over and it's continuing as a huge expanded flat. This now has a very low probability. Let's look at the length of B in relation to A. B is 15283.983. A was 9719.779. B is 1.57 times the length of A. It's longer than the common range. C's got almost no room to move into. It would have to move below A to avoid a truncation, and it can't move below the start of 1. I am going to discard this wave count. So let's go into manage analysis. on the basis of an extremely low probability. Where is it? Weekly alternate. Here, delete. Yes. Daily alternate. Delete that too, because that's the daily version of it. Yes. Now, I'm going to try a new alternate. I'm going to take this chart, just at the daily chart level, create a new wave count. I'm going to call it daily alternate. And when I create that new chart, Motive Wave has forgotten some of my formatting, so let's just add that back in. And again, squish it up so it can see the anchor points for the channel, so it makes the channel sit correctly. Expand it back out. Let's have a look at this. What could we be seeing differently here? Well, my first thought is this pullback. My first thought is I don't think this is over, but I don't think it's going to be very deep or last very long. So maybe a few more days, maybe another week at the most. Bitcoin doesn't fit nicely into channels, so this is an exercise possibly in futility, but let's give it a go, because it has, typical of commodities, but even more so, it has a curved look to its impulses. So if you draw, if this was the end of intermediate 3, from 1 to 3, a copy on 2, the beginning of it just doesn't fit. So you end up having to pull this down, and well, now it kind of fits, but it's not an Elliott channel, and it's a best fit channel. I mean, that could possibly be useful. What if this is a different degree? What if this is a higher degree? What if this is minor 4 or intermediate 4? I am going to get rid of all of the middle of this labeling, delete all of that. Let's consider what if this is intermediate 4. Now, how do we label? No, sorry, that goes there. Okay, if your wave gets one of your degrees of labeling, gets disconnected from the higher degree, you just have to pop it back in there. And now it's connected, the minor degree is connected to the intermediate degree. Right click, decompose impulse, that's the only possible structure for a third wave. I don't like this at all. I'm going to put this back here and here. Okay, this now fits, but does minute 5 fit? This will fit. Let's bring these over to the left, bring this up to the right, and now the third wave in here will fit nicely. That looks like a good looking impulse. That's okay. I think the fourth wave is probably some kind of combination in here. And let's leave that there. Okay, the problem here is minute wave 5. This doesn't look right. Let's put some labels in there. Yeah, it's the middle of this third wave. This is not going to work. Let's put the labels in and I'll show you what I mean. Oh, well, actually it could. Oh, I was wrong. Okay. Let's put some labels in here. When seeing if an impulse meets all Elliott wave rules, it's the middle of it that's the most important. And now we have an overlap. That's not going to work. 4 is overlapping 1. So delete that. That's wrong. That can't be right. And there's nowhere higher up really for me to put this. Okay, I'm going to go back and show you. I've got a full count for Bitcoin, a full historical count. Let's view this. Yeah, it's an arithmetic. Let's view it on a semi-log scale because it's just not going to work in an arithmetic scale. Let's look at primary wave 5 to end cycle wave 1, and let's look at the middle of that, and I'm going to show you why I'm so concerned to get the impulses looking like impulses. Actually, no, let's go back further. Let's go back to intermediate 1 here. Let's maybe look at the third wave because that's going to have the best look for an impulse. it doesn't need to. Some of motive wave rules that they've got in the software aren't actually right. So every now and then I have to ignore its warnings because I'm like, no, that's not right. Here's an example. So minor wave 5, minute 1, 2, minute 3, it looks like an impulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 and 4 reasonably in proportion. They look like they should be labelled at the same degree. Minute 4, minute 2, very, very close in proportion. Look like they should be labelled at the same degree. That's what Bitcoin's impulses look like. Here's another example. 1, this looks like a 5-wave impulse. 3, this looks like a good 5-wave impulse. And you can label all of the subdivisions. And when it comes to the middle of a third wave, it's important to make sure it meets all of those rules. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. We could have it ending here actually. No, it needs to end there. And within 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we should be able to label all of the subdivisions. They should have reasonably good proportion. It should look pretty good like that. This just doesn't. This is wrong. So okay, so that means I don't think this is intermediate degree, so that's still to come. What about minor degree? If we move these all over to the right, I move minute 3 up there, then I move minuet 3 up here. It doesn't really resolve the problem though, does it? Nope, doesn't resolve the problem. Now, if I put this here, now I've got the problem of how does subminuet 1 subdivide? And we've got the same problem of an overlap in here. Okay, that's not going to work. Well, I'm confident of this wave count at right down to the daily chart level. Everything here works beautifully. We've got a triangle in here. How does this work? Okay. Well, then it needs to be a 4th wave. Can I put minute 4 in there, here, for this triangle? And then, could this be some kind of combination? W, X, Y, no, that doesn't look right. I mean, technically that would be a running flat, and I'm not going to accept that. The probability is too low. But now the 5th wave works. Well, I mean, technically that's an alternate, but this running flat in here, the C wave would be quite strongly truncated. I'm not going to accept that. It's possible, but the probability is way, way, way too low. Okay. So here I've got this pullback minute degree. I've looked at could it be minor degree or could it be intermediate degree, and the conclusion is possibly, but very low in probability. I'm going to spend some more time playing with this. I'm going to end this video here because it's been quite long. I hope you've learned something from this. If anyone's got any questions on how to do motive wave, I'm going to show you one thing that sometimes people have a little problem with. If you look at this and you see a 0 here, and you're like, what's happened to my wave count? It's because it's not linked in to the degree high. If you move it across, now it's disappeared. Move it back, now it's in there. If I wanted to change the degree of labeling here within intermediate 3, I can disconnect the beginning and the end, and then I can control degree. Let's see, decrease the degree. So I want to move it all down once. Sometimes you need to do this, and so this is how I do it. And then I bring across a new impulse. I label it the correct degree, one below the one it's going to click into. So this will be minor because that's 1 degree below intermediate. I'll put the beginning here and the end at this labeling that I've just reduced, and connect the end to the end of intermediate 3. And now I've moved the degree of labelling within all of this down one, and I've got a new alternate wave count. So that's how I do that. That's another little trick for you. If anyone's got any problems they're having with Motive Wave and you need a little bit of assistance, I've been using it for over 10 years now, so I may be able to help you. You can use the contact form on my website, or if you remember, ask me in comments. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to put a link down below this video for you to click through to get 30% off Motive Wave. It's an affiliate link. If you click on that link and you make a purchase, then I get a small percentage of that sale, just so we're very clear. That's exactly what that is. And if you don't want to give me a small percentage, then just go motivewave.com and don't use my affiliate link. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you found this video useful.